In this video I have a couple of interesting things for you, and I know it's the third video of this videocast series and I'm already late with the third video, so well, it happens, but stay tuned. Let's get started with the news, and I have quite old news, if we can say that, but I have also the quite new one. So AWS just announced new batch of heroes, and congratulations to all of them who become the hero, AWS Hero. It is really cool program. So again, congratulations to everyone who get there. Before I go to AWS news, let's go with other news. So first, interesting one. It happened some time ago, but Meta, so the company behind, for example, Facebook, right, and Instagram and so on, removed 70,000 scammer accounts. 70,000. And I believe it's like really a drop in this ocean. So the scam will be less visible. Dreams. But maybe. So the best scam I ever saw, and bear with me with this, was I received it. It was about Nigerian astronaut who went to space with the Soviet Union agency or whatever they were called, and he had the bad luck because he was there during the time where Soviet Union collapsed, and Soviets just bring back their own astronauts, and because Nigerian astronaut agency was too poor, they didn't pay for returning this guy back, so he stayed there. He stayed there for like 20 years or even more, because remember the Soviet Union collapsed in like early 90s of the previous century, and I've got this scam like 15 years later or even more, and he was still there up there, and he was waiting for help, and he promised me if I pay for his coming back, I mean I help him to come back. So the scenario was like normal scam, right? I just need to pay some small amount of money, so he will transfer this whole salary he get there this 15 years or so to me, and I will keep it because his only dream is come back to life. Honestly, I don't know if he still is there, if he is still there or not. Who knows? Maybe he found some good soul who helped him come back. Right. And another in kind of similar funny vibe. So there was a guy who almost get a job in one company related to the security, IT security field. He passed interviews, he received the laptop, and now, important part, the not funny part of this story is that the security guys really did the job. He started to see some strange behavior on this computer, and they started to, analyze dig deeper into this and check what's going on, and they find out that this guy is living in Korea, but not the good Korea, but the North Korea, the bad Korea, and he just received a job in the one of the most important security companies in the Western world. Just to give you the picture, if you are not interested in politics, North Korea is led by the guy who, if you are not doing the things he wants, he can just eliminate you by shooting you with the cannons. Why not? Cannons, not just guns, cannons. He was virtually captured, and it came out that he used the deepfake technologies and a lot of AI in order to get this job. What was successful in his case. So be aware of this when you do the interviews with guys up there. Another news is about the VSM consortium. VSM means Value Stream Management Consortium, and they released FlowBuddy, which is the AI assistant. How it can help you, I don't know, I didn't check it, but you can try it in order to, go deeper into this value stream mapping stuff. So you can try it, and the link is below this video. Very interesting report. I saw only part of it, and it was kind of surprising, but not really. I mean, it's like 50-50, okay? I expected something like that, but not the amount, let's say, not the numbers. So we have the information that some surveys said that around 90% of the code, okay? 90% of the code written in startup where the code is written by juniors, or should I say it is like almost written by juniors, but it is written by artificial intelligence. To emphasize this, in the software out there, 90% can be written by AI right now, and rarely it is around 40%. In most cases, it's much more than 40%. It's closer to 80, 90. Most of the code is written by AI right now. And well, how is your prompt skill these days? Are you satisfied with that? Are you satisfied with what you see in the AI now? Are you satisfied how AI works and what can give to you? Again, it's 50-50. It depends, right? So it depends on the quality of the prompt you put there. For example, I started the new series called Speaking AI. You can find the link there to one of the episodes or even to the whole playlist. And what I've done for this, I found a very nice tool. I will do a review in some time, where you can put the prompt and this will create the video for you. And right now I found this is very good effect. This AI gives me very, very accurate and very, very expected by me effects. And even it says what really I want to say, but it does it better than me. And I'm really satisfied and also impressed by this software. But before I found this one, I tested a few and I wasn't that, I wasn't happy with them. Of course, the quality of the prompt is very important here. So in this software, just to give you the idea, you can have like 25,000 characters in your prompt. So my biggest so far had like 2,000 or something in order to get the proper content of the video I want, really. But I remember like today, not that far from today, it was like, I don't know, year or something. Of course, in this time AI evolved a lot, but I asked AI to write the Lambda function for authorization to my serverless application. Lambda function is the serverless approach from AWS. And then I asked this AI to create the secure Lambda function. One difference, the code was completely different. So you have to be very specific and very accurate, and you need to know what to do. Very good example from the science fiction world. Please go and find the episode of Star Trek where Geordi asked the computer of Enterprise to create the worthy adversary for Data in order to have the proper holodeck game. And what happened then? All right, let's go with the next one. So when I record this episode for the first time, like a couple of weeks ago, it was the news. Right now I didn't check what's going on there, so probably a lot of things happened, or maybe not, I don't know. But there is a possibility that GitLab will be sold, and I'm really interested to see, I really want to see Microsoft buying it. Because I remember where Microsoft bought GitHub, there was like we are doomed, we need to go away. So that, the whole internet just was in the rage against the Microsoft and against buying GitHub. They wanted to leave. Some of them left, but well, I don't see, big drop for GitHub. and most of them went to GitLab probably, right? And GitLab is kind of specific in this market because they have a little bit different approach to everything. Of course, it is a big tool. Of course, it is a very popular tool. Well, for me, I prefer the GitHub way of thinking than GitLab way of thinking. The most visible difference is in GitHub you have pull requests, in GitLab you have merge requests. So, and there are much more differences. So we will see where it will go. Right, AWS. And again, it's not the news anymore, but we are again in the serverless war. Is it good or is it bad? Because some time ago, Gregor Hope left AWS and he started to say things a little bit in opposite with what he said when he was in AWS. So that's strange, but well, he can do it. Why not? I have my opinion about this. Anyway, the article he published has the points. He has the points there, okay? But anyway, I disagree with some of those points. The thing, what happened after this article was definitely bigger than Gregor said. So it wasn't like, come on, okay? You can check the article. The link is in the description below. Personally, I don't agree with everything. I don't agree with almost everything what he said. But as I said, he had a couple of good points there. Anyway, another topic loosely related to AWS is micro frontends. So micro frontends right now, one of the most well-known faces behind micro frontends is Luca Mezzarilla. So you can find one episode of my podcast with him. I also link this somewhere on AWS blog. We have very nice article how to implement micro frontends. Link to this article is below. I really encourage you to go there and read it. And this is also not news today, but still big deal. So AWS is closing a couple of services. I didn't say AWS announced closing some services on purpose because AWS didn't announce that. And first of all, it is bad. Second of all, it is very bad. And third of all, me as a community builder, I feel like a little bit uncomfortable with that to not know because, well, of course, not officially and not partially officially, but somehow I'm involved in this AWS bubble as a community builder. So I would like to know what should I say to people who are asking me what the hell they do. And what kind of services we can lose very soon. Things like Cloud9, CodeCommit, Snowmobile, CodeStar, and this is fantastic news that CodeStar is going away because I hate it. I really hate it. I used this only once. I was scared like hell because it created like billion of resources, services, and so on. I didn't know what's going on. I just ordered AWS to just remove everything and just go away. But things like CodeCommit, Cloud9, they are used, and without announcing and doing very aggressive move into this makes things not that good really. So AWS, this is not the way. Okay, you should know that. Another news about AWS: the new region in Malaysia is opened. Of course, after the news about this went public, there was a lot of questions, especially in the Polish area, in the Polish field of AWS, why there is a new region somewhere there, not in Poland. Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure that AWS, takes into consideration a lot of things. We have Frankfurt very, very closely. We have very big region in Ireland, not that closely, but not that far. We have Stockholm, we have a couple of other regions around. I'm not sure if we need new region in Poland right now for more things than just be proud that we have a region in Poland. I'm not sure about this. Anyway, I will not go through the announcement, like a news announcement from AWS, because this is quite old now, and it's time to go to the security section, and this will be fun. And you may ask why this will be fun. Because of Crowdstrike. And of course, right now, no one even remembers what happened, but it was a quite big deal because, well, thanks to very small thing which happened in the Crowdstrike side, a lot of services, a lot of Windows machines went down. And if your Windows machine, if you have Windows machine at home and this machine was not infected, not impacted, it's not because you do something wrong. No, because it was because Crowdstrike is more targeted to the big corporations than individual users. So if you have like corporate laptop, corporate computer, you probably were infected. And what happened? So on 19th of July, they distributed the update for the Falcon sensor software. So this is the part of the software to recognize some threats, some problems in your machine, and so on and so on. In short, okay. And this update crashed 9 million machines immediately without restore option. That's cool. So after the update, users saw the blue screen of death, so very popular one in Windows world. And if you are a Windows user, you know what it means. And the users were unable to start their systems at all. As I mentioned already, this is the corporate stuff. So you can imagine corporations, that's not a big deal, let's say. But airports, airlines, hospitals, public transportation, stock markets, broadcasters, emergency services, all things like that were impacted, and was all of them were down. Okay? And we saw this. This was visible very well in the air operations, because airplanes were grounded, airlines were stopped, operating, airports were stopped operating, and so on and so on and so on. And the best thing is that the Crowdstrike CEO apologized in public. He was deeply sorry about this. And even better, if you think that, haha, you're Windows idiots, you have what you wanted. A few weeks earlier, this company did the same for Linux. Almost the same for Linuxes, okay? So it wasn't just the Windows things, and it wasn't just the Microsoft thing. And please remember one thing: before you start blaming Microsoft for doing things in stupid way, allowing others to destroy your machines, it is not like that. First of all, Microsoft wanted to change this approach some time ago and was like attacked from every single corner to not doing it. That's the first thing. And second, Microsoft did a lot, and I mean it, a lot to recover, to help people and companies to recover after this. So really, Microsoft is not to blame for this. Well, I said that CEO apologized, and he also offered everyone who was impacted some, something. $10 voucher to Uber. So if you were impacted by Crowdstrike and you lost millions of dollars because your business went down, you may expect $10 voucher for Uber Eats. Thank you very much. I'm going out. But wait. Before you will go as well, one more thing. This guy was also involved in somehow in the same scenario which happened years back with McAfee. And in that case, the home users were impacted as well. I was one of them, and I know what I'm talking about, okay? So, well, what can I say? In my personal opinion, this guy shouldn't be allowed to be even manager, like low-level manager in any IT company. This is the one thing. Second, they already won Pony Award for the most epic fall in this year. congratulations, you really earned it. And they have eternal glory because they have their own article in Wikipedia already. Of course, cases like this can happen, but if it happens again and again, and if it impacts in the way as it impacted, and you are still in charge, something is wrong, really. This is my personal opinion, okay? Of course, they will blame, and many people will blame people who were behind the engineering stuff and so on and so on and so on. I blame the so-called leadership. Before I will go to the next, the funny thing about this, because we learned that some airlines, for example, weren't impacted. And the reasons for not being impacted are really hilarious. For example, in China, they are using different systems. I don't know which, probably some Linuxes or something like that, or Unixes. So they weren't impacted. One airline in USA weren't impacted at all. Of course, this airline was impacted because the airports didn't operate, but the airline itself weren't impacted because they are using, and now buckle yourself, they are using Windows 3.1. I mean, that is a good news that they weren't impacted, but honestly, I would like to be impacted, not being like user of Windows 3.1. Go to Wikipedia, go to Microsoft page, also whatever, and find where Windows 3.1 was popular and was used. You may be surprised. Many of you are younger than the last date where you should use Windows 3.1. Alright, links to this, you can read a couple of things about this. Links are in the description. We have very funny vulnerability, I mean, at least for the name. So it is called 0.0.0.0 day vulnerability, and it affects which systems? Windows? No, it affects macOS and Linux. So, well, those of you who said, haha, another vulnerability for Windows, I'm watching you, okay? Not everything is bad in Windows and so perfect in another countries of operating systems. Anyway, this is a critical flaw where malicious website can bypass browser security and enabling them, this bypass enabling them to interact with the services in local network. So in other words, you can have like full access to your network behind your computer. So it is not fun, okay? But the thing is, like the regression or regression from the latest, from the previous episode, it is not new, okay? This vulnerability is 18 years old. This is our IT world. Still want to be in this? The article also linked in the description. And we already know that the USA election, which are coming very soon, are a battlefield for different kind of hackers. We have confirmed hackers from Russia who are, trying to do everything to give this like a. I will not go to the politics. And so we have Russian hackers. We have also hackers from Iran there as well. They are fighting for different things, and that is not something what is nice. Some private section right now, so for the YouTube related stuff, I started to publish first of all this speaking AI videos, which I mentioned on the beginning, and also I had like 3 videos right now. 4th is in the production about TFSec and the next tool after TFSec called Trivi. So the Trivi episode will be published soon, I believe. Maybe it's already published when you see it. I plan to have more stuff about infrastructure as code, and in these terms you can go and watch the channel of my friend Flavius, who is doing a lot of things related to infrastructure as code. Right now he is publishing a lot of stuff related to Docker, so the links are somewhere there or in the description. Go subscribe, like, I really appreciate, and he really appreciated. For the conferences and events, Few days, few weeks ago, I was in Riga in DevOps and Agile summer retreat. I published well. I spoke there about surprise TFSec and infrastructure as code security, and it was quite interesting place because and the like a conference itself, because it was like meetup plus. Okay, it started at 6 p.m. It has like 4 tracks, but in very not official style, because it was done in the restaurant but outside the restaurant, so we were outside. So for me it wasn't that much outside, because I had the presentation, I had the demo, and I have to have like place where I can show the presentation and the demo. But the rest of the people, especially those from the agile side, they presented like outside, around there were trees around, things like that. Very cool idea, really. But what wasn't cool was the mosquitoes, and what I learned that the Latvian mosquitoes are much harder than Polish ones. So it was cruel. Anyway, on the 13th of September, so in the day, one day after I published this video, I will speak in Bydgoszcz at BitConf conference. I will tell there about my framework for CI/CD, for designing and architecting CI/CD at scale. And one day after, and this will be tricky because I need to go back from Bydgoszcz to Krakow, I will be speaking at Besides Krakow. This is the third edition of the conference. I have the pleasure and opportunity to talk there for the third time, and I will talk about AWS and SBOMs. And also, what is important, my mentee from the Tech Leaders program will be like a host of one stage. So I'm really proud of her and waiting to see that. All right, and then 18th of September in Warsaw, we have AWS Cloud Day. I will be there together with Tameshi. So if you want to talk with me, with us, talk about what Tameshi can do for you, and this is free advertisement, come to our booth and talk with us. I would be happy to also discuss a couple of other things with you if you like. Then we have, of course, All Day DevOps. I am selected to this with my new framework, which I'm creating from some time already. I presented this framework once already. It is about new approach to infrastructure, using infrastructure as code. I will not spoil the fun. Go register yourself to All Day DevOps conference. It is free. It is really all day conference, so we can see each other there. Well, mostly you will see me there, because I cannot see you, unfortunately. Then also in October, I will be in Bratislava doing some very interesting workshops for one of the companies. I will do the workshops about liberating structures. So as you can see, DevOps is not just only about tooling, and I'm saying this all the time, so it should be boring for you already. November, December, we will see what more will come, but for sure I will be at KubeCon, I will be at reInvent. One more thing, on the end of September, we will do the workshops, let's call it this way, about public speaking. I will be doing this workshop together with CNCF chapter Krakow. So if you like to learn something about public speaking from me, I'm sorry, there is no better person to do that. So if you want to learn something about public speaking, just register yourself and come to us. I will prepare some very funny things and a lot of trainings, like activities and tests for you, so you should have the feeling how it is to speak to people. So for the interview today, I have very special person to give you. I have a kinda short interview with Mark Peters. This is interesting because we will not have, well, I know how it sounds, but we will not have a technical demo, because we talk about his book about DevOps. The book is called Confident DevOps. You have the link below where you can find the book, and this is very interesting approach to DevOps, which resonate with me, and I really like this approach, and I encourage you to read the book or at least listen to the interview. Today, I have the pleasure to talk with Mark Peters. We will talk about very interesting thing about DevOps, of course, but from a little bit different perspective. Mark is the author of the book, which is already published probably when you look on this, when you watch this episode. The book is called Confident DevOps, and it is about surprise DevOps. And Mark took the topic from a little bit different perspective than just we obviously see in the most, like 99% of the books in the market. So Mark talks about processes, about people, about the approaches, not about, as I like to say, Kubernetes, GitOps, and cloud, and then we are DevOps, right? So first of all, Mark, thank you very much for joining me today. What you have to also know that Mark is DevOps Institute ambassador, so fellow DevOps Institute ambassador. I think that there is some connection because DevOps Institute is also thinking about DevOps from the human perspective, right? So that's why it connects the dots here. So Mark, again, thank you very much for joining me today, and I'd like to know a little bit more about you. Why it came to your mind to write this book and this specific approach to DevOps?
So I write a lot, and I think a lot about things. This specific approach was kind of interesting. Helen Beale, who's the chief ambassador for the DevOps Institute, came to me and said, "These people are bugging me to write a book. I don't have time. Do you think you can help them out?" She's like, "I know you write a lot. I know you've done a lot of stuff. Can you talk to them and see if you can meet their standards for what they want to do?" They came to me and said, we're looking for this book. We're looking for a kind of different approach. They showed me their confident line of how do you get into these things, of how do you feel comfortable doing everything from AI and machine learning to Kubernetes and GitOps. And they said, we want one on DevOps. And I said, well, I talk about that a lot, right? Like all of us DevOps ambassadors, I go to a lot of conferences. And so I had some of the scrap material kind of ready. And then I got it and I put it in. And I really like DevOps as a cultural approach as opposed to a technical approach. That the tools help you get there, but if you don't have the right cultural mindset when you're thinking about it, then you're just doing the old bad things with a new set of tools and saying that you're DevOps. So that was really the mindset. And then
I think that what you said is very important about tools and having this as a part of the equation. It's like, driving a car. Almost everyone can drive a car, but not many of us can drive like Formula One bolide, right? So that's the difference. And that's I like it very much.
If you want the example, you look at how many people buy race cars, right? They get a lot of money, they buy a race car. They go out and drive the car, and 30 days later, they've crashed it and destroyed it because they have no idea how to drive a race car. They're just think they can do it because they can drive a normal car. And it's a lot of the DevOps, right? You have to have that basic mindset. I talk a lot. Malcolm Gladwell had a great thing about how much you have to practice to be an expert, right? And that you have to do it 500 times. You have to do it 5,000 times before you get the familiarity with a thing. And you look at something like a professional sports analogy, and the people who play the sports, the people who play baseball or soccer, they never stop practicing the basic skills, right? Every day, if you play soccer, you dribble, you pass, you work with the ball, you touch the ball, and then you move into the more advanced stuff. And it's the same way for a lot of the DevOps. You have to have that cultural mindset, and you have to reinforce it every day that we're doing the flow feedback and the continuous improvement. And we're thinking about those things, and we're kind of thinking about it from that perspective. A lot of this work through to, what was I going to say? When I did my doctorate, I did my PhD, and I looked at how people treat security and function, right? And how the teams treat it. And the program managers had this big idea of this is security stuff and this is functional stuff, and we're going to separate them and we're going to divide them. But by the time you get to the DevOps team, a developer doesn't care whether it's security or function. All they care is they have the app in front of them to do, and whether it's security or function or integrated or anything, doesn't make a difference. They just have to do the thing. and then they do it in a DevOps way that delivers the value sooner, right?
Yes, yes, correct. And what I like about your book that you start with explaining things and place DevOps as a approach in some place in the whole landscape, right? So that's why we have the chapter about comparing DevOps methodologies. What is DevOps at all? Well, as many of us that there's so many definition what DevOps is, right? I wonder, because what I like really, the chapter about comparing DevOps methods, and you put there SDLC, waterfall, and even safe and GitOps. So you place this DevOps as a approach somewhere, but also you show that, all right, this is where we can place DevOps, but still DevOps as a whole is a little bit bigger than just the methodology of delivering software, right?
It is, because while we include that methodology as an important part, if you don't have the cultural mindset, you don't get there. You get into a new company and they're like, this is our SDLC and this is how we do it. And this is the organization. And this is the Conways, right? How we develop software mirrors what our structure already is. And we like it and we use it and we're going to call it DevOps. It's like, well, that's nice, but you're not really making the transitions, right? I've said I'm DevOps, but I've got to go through 8 steps in the organization before I can push my thing to production. Well, is that really the flow that you're looking for? And then I don't get any feedback other than, well, the grammar was wrong, or this was wrong, or that it wasn't submitted during the right bracket for us to budget it. So we can't go on to the next step. So I really wanted to do that comparison and show that, these are equally valid methods of producing software if you have different needs. I talked to a guy one time and they were writing software for a nuclear submarine. And their DevOps, their fast deployment cycle was 6 months because of all the restrictions they had. But it makes sense because it's going on to a nuclear sub. And 6 months was actually significantly faster than the other model they had that took them 3 to 5 years to get it out. So that was a success for them. And they could maintain that culture of going fast and going quickly while still meeting some of those barriers that some of those highly regulated industries you'd like to see, some of the more security stuff. Medical, privacy, and those type of standards.
That's why it's very important to see and understand from where you came, and also what are your boundaries and what are your limitations and what is your industry really. Because, as you said, this is critical here. Because, let's be honest, maybe not nuclear submarines, but for the airplanes, I would not be so happy, even if I love flying, to fly the plane where developers just push every line of code because they have to push. It happened more or less with Maxes. But anyway, I liked also that you show the picture of DevOps in wider space, because very often how we think about DevOps is someone who sits with developers and his role is to create a pipeline, take care about the cloud environment, be on call, and that's it. But you show also that in DevOps area there is also architecture, there is also observability, but not just as building Grafana on Kubernetes, because it's not the observability. And also you have the whole chapter about the pipelines, which is also important. And even more important, you have a chapter about testing, which is completely mind-blowing for some people, right? That there are QAs for this, not developers, not DevOps. So how it grows in your mind to put all those blocks together in this book? Because for some, it can be a little bit like science fiction, right? That there are so many pieces there. I hope it will be more science than fiction, but still, how did you came to this idea to put all those blocks in your book?
I think those are the essential blocks when you're thinking about it. And even if you're a junior developer and you're working and you're not thinking about building a new architecture, you should be aware of what the plan is, right? Just like if you're building a house, you have to know what the plan is, even if all you're doing is coming in and putting a piece of flooring in. You want to know how it all fits together. And for me personally, I always want to know how things fit together, right? How it ties in to that other section. One of the things you see for developers is, and I've seen, is we built this app and it does a thing. Then you come in and say, well, okay, how do you prove to me that it did that thing? And they say, well, it just did it. It's in the background. It shows up later on. Like, well, but okay, show me, how you did it and how you prove it, and justify that it goes in. And this is a discussion we have, is kind of one of those advanced topics with AI a lot of the time too, right? The AI goes and it does a thing for you. And you say, okay, tell me how you got to that answer. It's like, well, that's the answer. You don't need any justification. And that's fine for a 2 + 2, but not fine for how long does it take the hose to fill my, 1,500 gallon pool. Right? I need a little bit more in there. There's a little bit more variability, and we see that when we work with customers all the time. We want something, and being able to prove at the early stage helps us demonstrate that value to get that flow. The thing we did for you actually does this thing, and you can see it here, here, and here, and I can verify it because I've tested it to do this, this, and this, that make it work effectively. And so you have to think about all those aspects of it.
Yeah. And there is another aspect which I didn't mention yet, but I did it on purpose because I always love that I talk about security, one of the most important elements on the end, always as a last element. And so is in your book. So before the part 4, the future of DevOps, which is kind of wrap up, right, of the whole book, we can say. You have the stability and security and stability professionals and so on and so on. So security on the end of the book. Was that on purpose as well, or it was like you put this block on the end without any reason other than you have to have something on the end of the book, right?
So I started as a security guy, and I like security a lot. And if it was me, I'd talk all about security. But when I understand security, if you're not doing those basics at the first part, you never get to security, right? That security is another basic. When you look at breaches and you look at things and you go into it, you're like, well, they didn't set up their passwords right. Well, they didn't set up their firewall right. Well, those are basic things that should have been covered in the architecture, that should have been covered in testing, that I should have had. So while we have to think about security all the time, if we do our good foundational practices that we have, we wind up covering a lot of the security. Now, granted, some of the governance and compliance gets into that, but even with governance and compliance, you get into the observability and testing. How do I show an auditor that I've actually done a thing? We had an instance with an audit where we had to go through and they had 1,500 some things they wanted addressed, right? They wanted something addressed for each of them that you had to send them a little note about why you did it. And it was painful, but I went in and I said, okay, here's the block in our policy where it's covered. Here's the scrap of code that actually implements the thing that you did. And here's the code running in execution where I sent you a little video of the code running in execution that does that thing. And I think they looked through 30 or 40 of the 1,300 I'd done and said, all right, we think you're good. Because we had that mindset, right? We were looking for that continuous improvement all the way through, in the pipelines and the testing and the observability all demonstrated that we were achieving those levels of success, and we can pull them out at any time. And then it makes security easier, not easy because it's never easy, but thinking about it the whole way through and having that mindset allows you to deliver it through. And like we said earlier, the developers don't care whether it's a security aspect or a functional aspect. If you tell them everything has to have a password, they built an app and everything has a password. Every password meets these certain guidelines, right? It's just the test-driven development of that app rather than a separate security feature, but it winds up rolling into that overall security picture. So security kind of wraps up everything in my mind. And even though we think about it first, if we're doing all those basics, we don't have to worry about it. Like the soccer player, if I can dribble and pass well, I don't have to worry about somebody stealing the ball because my dribbling skills, my passing skills are so good that I've made the right steps, that I'm secure the rest of the way.
I like this explanation really, and I like the way how you look on this. And this leads us to the topic which is going through the whole the book really is about the people. And I'd like to ask you about something that is not said in your book that, well, in that direct way, like really straight punch in the face, right? But what I think is when we talk about agile culture and DevOps culture, we talk a lot about shifting left everything, right? Testing, architecture, security, and so on and so on and so on. And this brings a lot of cognitive load on the developers, really, right? So how do you think, how we can fix that really? Because this is a problem that we put a lot of things into one hands. And honestly speaking, looking on the number of technologies you have around, about starting with coding, through security, through cloud, through cost optimization, through CI/CD, IAC, and so on and so on and so on, there's like hundreds of technologies which you have to learn, right? So how to deal with that?
So I go back to the same answer. When somebody says shifting left, it means they want to pick up a process from the end and they want to move it to the beginning. If you think about all those things from the beginning, then you're not shifting a process. You're just doing your normal job, your normal applications, and it's embedded in the overall thought, right? It's embedded in the overall process that as I develop it, I have to have testability. I have to have observability. It has to be secure. It has to be scalable, right? And we don't have that always when we get to an MVP. Sometimes we skip it early, but then we bring it back later on because the MVP is the minimum viable and not necessarily the full production aspect. And many people say MVP and they treat that as something to be delivered. It's like, well, no, it's a first step in what we will ultimately deliver so that you can do a little bit more than you did yesterday. But it's not getting you 6 months down the road with that next MVP. So anybody that says shift left, I think they haven't implemented their process, right? They haven't made that cultural change that lets them think about these things early, that lets them think about what experiences they're going through early to move those to the end. Again, a good program manager, as they said, I have a great time if they tell me we want to get to Mars and the plan is to get to Mars and they tell me develop a way to get to Mars. I have less of a good time if the program manager comes in with a minimal technological understanding and says, we're going to get to Mars. Here's how we're going to do mile 1. Here's how we're going to do mile 2. Here's how we're going to do mile 3. And they've already detailed what all those things are to make the steps. And that's what we see with a lot of the Kubernetes and the IOCs, like, well, I want this, and I want Kubernetes, and I want this application integration, and I want it done this way, and it has to have this particular structure, this particular thing. And they're taking away from the DevOps as the experts, who, if you leave them alone, because of that flow of feedback and improvement, they'll design you something better than anything you ever came up with, right? If you're building a house, now I don't know your own personal architecture standard, but like I'm not going to go in and tell the architect, like, this is where it has to be, and this is where the pipes have to be, and this is where I need the electrical outlets. I'm going to be like, I want a bathroom attached to the master bedroom, and I want an office, and the office has to be fully wired, and I need 6 outlets in the office, right? But I don't tell them how to run the wires through the house to get to those 6 outlets.
It's his role.
Right? Just show me their 6 outlets and show me they work. When I come in, I'm going to plug into all the outlets, and that's my testing to show that they all work.
And finally, I mentioned already part 4 of your book, and this is about the future. And now, controversial question: is DevOps already dead? Because a few years back, SRE should kill DevOps. It wasn't successful. So we have platform engineering, which we also hear that it will kill DevOps. So is DevOps dead already?
I don't think it's dead because I think it's the cultural mindset. And the platform engineering is a good one. I think platform engineering is the next outgrowth of DevOps. When we were doing our dev stuff, we all built our platform when we set up. And the first thing we did was set up a platform that would support us. And I think we've learned enough that we can say, all right, this is the generic platform. Let's take a platform and now let's build from there. Let's build our improvement off of a platform instead of stopping and building a new platform every time we get into something, right? We have our codes, we have our IDEs change all the time, but like, let's put that on top of a platform. Let's get all the tools we want already there. Let's get all the testing suite. And instead of us building it, let's find somebody that I can rent or buy, right? Something that works 90% of the way, and then I can make the tweaks along the way to make it perfect for my platform. But I don't have to do all that beginner work, because as I'm sure you've seen, building a platform takes us, 12 to 18 months, and then we've got more time on top of that. And then we get through it and we find out our platform is only good for that one application we were thinking about, not for the broad range of everything we want to build at that company. So I don't think DevOps is dead. I think the cultural aspect and thinking about the cultural aspect and thinking through problems in that way is what we have to move to the next step.
Sure. And yes, I also do not believe that DevOps is dead, and it will not be dead soon. Okay, now, any plans for the new books in the future?
So I'm actually working on a platform engineering book, oddly enough, with Gautam Palapa, that's working through Packet, that's supposed to be out in the fall, talking about some of the aspects of some of the same types of things I talked about in this book, but more from a platform-focused perspective, right? How do you think about what you need in a platform to ask the right questions, to use somebody else's platform, or to set it up easily with tools that are already there, instead of struggling through an individual aspect of it, right? What are some of those things that we can shortcut that? And that falls into my mind for the continuous improvement, right? We've made the improvement.
Will be great addition to this book and confident platform engineering, right?
Yeah, it's I think it's Mastering Enterprise Platforms is going to be the title of that one.
Sounds better than mine title. So, Mark, thank you very much, and good luck with the new book. And for sure, for everyone here who are watching this episode, I put the link to the Confident DevOps book written by Mark in the description below. And I strongly recommend you to buy this book. Buy this book. Do not try to find it somewhere. We are waiting for the next book from Mark. This will be, as I said, a great addition to the DevOps book. And Mark, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for sharing your thoughts about the book, about the writing process, and why you came with this, and how Helen pushed you to write this book. And we can be grateful that Helen did that, because, it is really worth to read. And for everyone who wants to learn a little bit more about DevOps, not how to use Jenkins or Kubernetes, but how to do DevOps in your organization, Confident DevOps is the book for you, next to the most known like Phoenix project and so on. Build your library with those books. Mark, again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for writing this book for us, and good luck with the new one. And thank you, and see you somewhere, maybe in face-to-face.
Yep.
In
somewhere, sometime.
Right, so it's time to end this video. So it was the third video of my videocast. The fourth video should come quite quickly, probably after the Cloud Dev conference in Warsaw. Probably I will have some materials from these conferences I will be in next days. Thank you very much for your time. Please enjoy my Speaking AI series, because I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited about the tool. I'm really excited about the idea, and I really want to hear your opinion about this thing, about this approach, and what really this AI thinks and says using my prompt. And that's all for today. See you next time.